And I've got a very interesting book for you today. So picture this: a Korean American physicist at the South Pole listening for ghost particles buried deep in the Antarctic ice when her childhood imaginary friend steps out of a snowdrift and calls her by her name. So science says neutrinos barely touch the world. At least that's how I understand it. Folklore says ghosts come into the world in strange ways too. What if both these things are true? What if the presence of both these things are true in the world in some way? So, hello everybody. I'm Barry. This is Soul Book Club, where I review Korean literature and translation. If that blend of myth and science and family history sounds like your thing, hit the subscribe button and I'll get into the review. So today I'm reviewing Folklorn by Angela Mi Young Hur. It's quite a big chunky book today. This novel was published back in April in 2021, and it was quite highly praised at the time. And it seemed to have quite a lot of fans and cheerleaders, and it had quite a high profile and some very positive reviews. And so there were a lot of people quite excited about this book and its talented writer. So Hart was born in L.A. in Los Angeles to Korean immigrant parents. She graduated from Harvard and Notre Dame. And she, at the time of writing this book or publishing it, she lived in Stockholm in Sweden. And all of those elements feature prominently in this her second novel. So it's about a Korean woman who's the daughter of immigrants raised in America who now lives and works in Sweden. So Hart actually made her debut well over a decade ago with a novel called The Queens of K-Town. Haven't read that one. However, there was an interview at the time where she said that Folklorn is my true literary and spiritual debut. And it's a deep and rich book full of interesting ideas. And I'm sure lots of readers will enjoy getting lost in it. So, like I said, there is a lot happening in this novel. It's a big book with a lot of different elements, different themes, different story strands. So I'll try and break it down for you a little bit. So it tells the story of Elsa Park. Elsa Park is a young woman, and her, she's the daughter of Korean immigrants in America. She's now a successful particle physicist working at a neutrino observatory in the Antarctic. And she works there with a team of researchers. And when not working there, she is based in Sweden. Her mother has been in a coma for several years, and as a child, her mother warned Elsa that her life was in some way bound up with Korean folk tales, and that the women of their family's line were doomed to repeat these folk tales and Korean myths. And Elsa had successfully put these ideas out of her head for many years as she pursued her scientific and academic career. However, as the novel begins, just when Elsa is conducting some delicate and important experiments on her research project in the Antarctic, she starts having strange visions of her imaginary childhood friend, whom she's not thought of for many years. Shortly after this, she receives a phone call from her older brother saying that her comatose mother has finally passed away and that she should return to California for the funeral. We should also note that Elsa's brother has had significant mental health problems over the course of his life, and that their father was often violent and abusive to the children, as well as their mother. The news of her mother's death sets Elsa off on a kind of quest to unravel and make sense of these mysterious folk tales that her mother passed down to her and the strange visions that she's now experiencing. And just a little side note about the research facility. So the South Pole actually does have this facility called the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory. And you know what? Let me just double check that I got that name right. Hold on one second. And yeah, I think it's called. Sorry, I thought I'd check this before I started. Let me just quickly double check. Yeah, so the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, and it's a sort of a cubic kilometer of an Antarctic ice studded with sensors So the sensors go like down like to 2.5 kilometers, and they look for blue flashes when a neutrino bumps into matter. And the neutrinos are nicknamed ghost particles because they sort of slip through everything. And so this is kind of a metaphor which sort of hums through the rest of the narrative. And if you're a scientist who understands that kind of thing, I apologize for my I'm sure awful description of it. Anyway, so there, apart from the neutrinos, there's a lot of familiar elements here, right? So we have a child of Korean immigrants growing up in America. We have the parents' dysfunctional marriage, the burden of academic pressure, the use of folk tales and myths to comment on cultural heritage. So we see these things quite frequently in Korean literature. So is her using these elements to say something new or different? So these are very familiar elements, or some of them are very familiar, but Hart does have interesting things to say about everything that she touches upon. So intergenerational trauma is a significant aspect of the story, and she makes that tangible and impactful. And she weaves in folk tales, or Korean folk tales like Princess Bari and Shim Cheong, into the fabric of the story. And the way she does this is clever and engaging. The novel is also full of Elsa's thoughts and observations on race and gender and ethnicity. That aspect is very well developed. Elsa talks about being a minority in America and in Sweden, and the complicated way that race is constructed in these different places. There's a lot of compelling observations on that front. Excuse me. And then there's these reflections on the nature of physics and neutrino experiments. And then on top of that, there's this dysfunctional brother who has his own story. There's also a romance element with a Korean adoptee raised in Sweden who has his own story. And all of these elements have, all of these aspects of the novel have, Her says, sort of interesting things about them. But I think really overall, there's the three major strands that braid everything together. So we have intergenerational trauma and the folk tale inheritance. So the novel's asking, how do the stories that we inherit, and especially in this case, mother and daughter stories, how do they shape lives, even if you try to resist them? And then there is a big aspect which is about race, gender, and migration. So Elsa observes how being a minority feels different in the US and in Sweden. And she sort of comments on who gets to belong, who gets believed, who gets erased. Then we have this aspect of the novel which is about science versus the uncanny. Elsa's a physicist, so she's invested in the language of physics, which she uses to understand the world. But then she also has myth. Myth gives her another language to understand what is happening to her family. So you have a tension between these things, right? Between science and the sort of uncanny aspect. And then, like I said as well, the plot sort of arcs through three places. So Antarctica, where the visions begin, California, where you have the grief and the family history come together, and then Stockholm, where you have this relationship with the Korean Swedish adoptee. And so Elsa follows a chain of folk tales and clues, and the narratives kind of toggles between sort of harder reality and this sort of maybe magical element. And it's sort of asking, it's sort of the conflict between science and the supernatural, right? So, what do you do when you're a physicist? How do you deal with the presence of ghosts in your life, right? Tonally, it's a big discursive novel. There's grief scenes. There's frayed family phone calls. There's rants about academia. There's some kind of nerd. If you're a sort of science nerd, you'll like hearing about neutrino experiments. And there's sort of some sections that are kind of like a travelogue of immigrant experiences. And even there's parts that are kind of like a campus novel. And in a way, it's a little bit speculative fiction. There's a sort of slow bleed from realism into myth. And at the time, there was lots of big reviews, like the NPR and New York Times. It was on their sort of best books of the year lists and things like that. And I think if you liked things like Pachinko or any other Korean immigrant stories or novels, you'll probably find a lot to enjoy and admire in this book too. I saw a couple of people mention Light from Uncommon Stars. I haven't read that. But I've seen a couple of people saying if you enjoyed Light from Uncommon Stars, I know that was quite popular a couple of years ago, then check Folklorn out. But anyway, Hart is a clever, very insightful writer. There's an abundance of things in this book to appreciate. Is occasionally a little frustrating. There's so much kind of happening that so I think some things didn't quite gel together for me. Having said that, I would very happily recommend it to readers looking for a big, complex book to sink their teeth into. And I'm looking forward to reading more of her work at some point in the future. So anyway, bottom line, it's about the stories that families tell each other, and it's just about how we understand our life. And if you've read it, tell me in the comments. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? And if you enjoyed this review, hit the like button. And thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next review.